might be curious about in coming in here, customer experience is becoming more and more data science, predictive analytics, and other things, as so much is migrating towards this field and becoming more and more relevant in this space. So let's talk about, just customer experience in and of itself. When I use that word, what comes to your mind? What do you feel like customer experience is? Would anybody care to try and define it? Who wants to do it? Yeah, right here. Oh yeah, perceive. I love the word perceive. Absolutely, yes, right there. Yeah, interacts with you and your brand. Absolutely. Any other aspects of that definition? Yeah, so you nailed it. So when we use Forrester's definition, it's how the customers perceive your brand. In holistic fashion, all the different touch points. Customer experience is the sum of all of that, their overall thoughts and perceptions. So we're dealing with something really tricky here, very abstract, and it's hard to demonstrate the ROI of customer experience. But I've got some very compelling data here, recent research. Tepkin Group is one data house that is very prevalent in the customer experience space, and certainly Gartner, Dimension Data, and others. The one to focus on, though, is probably in the upper right-hand corner. It is very clear that those organizations that are doing customer experience well are winning market share. They are accelerating. And it's been widely proclaimed by the CEO of Dell and others that customer experience is the next competitive battleground. And if you think about it, it can be almost easy to rip off a product or service. It can be easy to do all these different things very quickly and spin them up. But when we talk about customer experience, that is not something that can be copy and pasted. This is something that takes years to develop. It makes an organization exceptionally unique when they get this right. So those companies that are doing it well are absolutely winning. But the sad reality today, and I know this has been a theme in this conference, if anybody was in Sean's session right before in this room, we have this barrier in front of us in terms of actually being successful. and this statistic, 93% of CX initiatives are failing to be able to demonstrate meaningful results. We can't measure that. Well, hence the reason that I'm so excited that you all are in here, many data scientists and data folks, because I really need help in this area. There is a strong chance that somewhere in your organization, there is a CX professional that is struggling, or maybe an entire team of them, struggling to be able to bring the data to the work they're doing, the important work that they're doing. And they need you, they need help to be able to prove the ROI and to be able to isolate if the things they're doing are even correct, if they are the things that are actually going to enhance the customer's journey. So that's what we're going to be talking about is what are the ways, what are the things that we can do to actually measure that customer experience in a meaningful way. So I want to begin with maybe a popular customer experience metric that you all might know, which is the Net Promoter Score. How likely would you be to refer a friend or family member to use a product or service? And it's definitely a hot topic. And it's funny that it's a hot topic because this metric is old enough to have its own driver's license. It's been around forever. And it's almost like, it's just kind of a funny thing. We're talking about, would you maybe refer a friend? If you did refer a friend, would you rate it on the scale of 1 to 10 of likelihood? And then how does that translate to customer loyalty at all? It's just kind of a bit of an odd metric, but somehow there is a brilliance behind it. And it is representing what we're trying to get to, the heart of it, as you guys well defined. What we're trying to understand is how people feel about us. That's what we're trying to get, the thoughts and perceptions that our customers have. But the question is Net Promoter Score still the best way? So I would love a show of hands. Is NPS still the best way? Okay. Nobody. Interesting. Maybe show of hands. Do we feel like Net Promoter Score is dead, that we need to move on? Okay, a couple. So maybe the majority of you are just curious on what is the best way to measure this? Would that be accurate? Okay, well good. Well, they just came out with this article in the Wall Street Journal calling NPS a dubious fad, which for many of us CX professionals, it's like the one thing we have is the NPS score. And so it was like this, oh no, like don't take that away from us. Because it's funny, a lot of executives are addicted to NPS. There's this NPS addiction that's out there because it's really interesting to hear an executive talk about the legacy that they want to leave. When they talk about the impact that they want to have in an organization, what are some themes that exist there? What are some things that they say? Yeah, okay, yeah, thank you, Chris, indeed. I mean, what impact do they want to have on the organization? Okay, yeah. Yeah, there's certainly some financial aspect that's there. Grow the business, absolutely. So I find that the vast majority of executives that I talk to on this topic, they say that they want to improve the customer experience. But they don't know how to do that, and they don't know how to demonstrate if they are or not, aside from this NPS score. So they get addicted to it, and it's a little bit dangerous. So we're going to talk about NPS score and having that as part of your CX dashboard, but also evolving past it to where you're not addicted to it, to where you're not completely dependent on it to show the ROI of this work. So I'm going to lay out some foundational customer experience metrics. So if you're in here and you're thinking, I want to go check on my customer experience team and see what metrics they are producing, these would be ones that you would hopefully probably see. This would be the starting point. And one of them is certainly Net Promoter Score. And the biggest power that NPS does have is that it is very easy to baseline against your competition. It's something that we used for so long across so many different industries that it is a very powerful metric in that regard. And additionally, it's something that you can use across all the different touch points. When you think about the customer journey, the customer is interfacing with your brand in different ways across their life cycle with you. And it's very tricky to get any kind of consistent barometer of their thoughts and perceptions through that life cycle. But when it comes to NPS, how likely are you to refer? That's a question you can ask at any time, and it's always relevant. So in that regard, it's very helpful. But on the other hand, has anybody seen or heard of the Effortless Experience by the Corporate Executive Board? Came out in 2011. It is the definitive work for CX professionals around analytics. And it made it abundantly clear that NPS does not correlate to actual customer loyalty. There is not a strong correlation. In other words, it's a bit of a worthless metric in the sense of if you increase the NPS score, it's not going to impact your business results. Highly unlikely. And I have validated this in my own world, that as we've chased after this magic score of NPS, we have not seen that translate to actual revenue increase or customer loyalty improvement. Very dangerous. So then let's look at customer effort scores. Anybody heard of the customer effort score? This right here is the best question that you can ask in the customer service area. And it's talking about how quickly and easily you are able to resolve your issue. And it is very widely recognized by Shep Hyken, by Gartner, Forrester, HBR, all of them have recognized that this idea of ease of business, creating a frictionless customer experience, that is how you correlate to loyalty. That is the metric that we can use to be able to say, if we can make an easier experience for the customer, they will be more loyal to us. And it's funny because historically, customers valued money above all else. But nowadays, I mean, think about yourself. What do you value even more than money? Time. Time. Time is the ultimate resource. And we spend a lot of it dealing with organizations that have crappy customer experiences. They waste our time. Customer experience, when done really well, means that we're enhancing people's lives because we're making their life easier. We're taking the crappy parts of their day and we're making it better through intelligent CX design. So this is really awesome work that we get to do. And this is a metric that shows much better than NPS if we're doing it well. Are we saving the customer time? There is one weakness associated with the customer effort score, and that is that it is ultra relevant to customer support, which is not customer experience. The phrase I like to use when I'm trying to define the difference between customer support and customer experience. Think about customer experience is like you designing a boat with your customer. You're in the boat with the customer. You guys are paddling together and you're trying to get out to that island of mutual success. You're trying to solve that problem for the customer. Customer support is when there's a hole in the boat. There's a leak that started happening. So there's a problem. Customer support is defensive in nature. That means that you're having to go back and fix a problem in the experience. Can you understand how that's very different than creating a frictionless experience? So when we do CX really well, we actually release our dependency on customer support, which is a bit of a scary thing to talk about, but it's true and it's important. Customer support is your organization's defense. But it is absolutely a fertile ground to flip that way of thinking, of being proactive or being reactive and being defensive, and to start to get proactive, to start to throw that football downfield and make some magic happen by designing better experiences. Your customer support team is equipped to do this if we can help them to evolve in their mentality. So customer effort score is an essential metric that your customer service area should be producing. And if they are not, I would highly challenge you to put the effortless experience on their desk. And legacy foundational CX metric, it's customer satisfaction. Are you satisfied with X? You got great flexibility on that question because it can be asked just about at any time about any type of interaction that the customer had, about any type of product or service. The problem is this idea of satisfaction also does not strongly correlate to actual customer loyalty. So it's good to have and it's important, and it's another one that's great to benchmark, especially benchmark you against you. You can see how satisfied the customer is, like as an example, the sales area. How satisfied are you with your experience here versus all the way on the other side of your implementation? Okay, now how satisfied are you now? And it's okay, so now we got an interesting valley of despair that's been created in the customer experience, and we can compare that and address that. So these are some basic metrics for customer experience, which is, again, trying to measure how the customer thinks and feels about us as a brand. So when we get a little deeper into customer effort score, this is how it would be calculated. This is the standard method from Gartner. And what you're doing is a 7-point scale. You're asking the question on a survey after a support interaction. This says the company made it easy for me to handle my issue. And you're taking those that answered 5 to 7, so yes, it was very easy, and you're adding those together and dividing by the total. So what you're trying to isolate is the percentage of those that felt like the experience was easy for them. That's what you're trying to isolate. Those that are, in NPS language, detractors, those are the ones where we need to learn, okay, well, what was the friction point? What are the themes and trends that are adding friction to this experience for you, and we need to eliminate those. Yes?
In a retail setting, why would customer effort not be related to just service in general and support?
Mm-hmm.
I guess you're kind of keeping on the side of the customer effort is really all about customer support.
Yeah.
But like in helping the customer to make a decision, that's the options available.
Good.
And how hard it is to make that decision and then basically receive the service or the good, I would think that would be a good metric as well.
I think you're thinking very well. Yeah. You make a good point. So let me jump to this. So this idea of effort reduction is absolutely applicable beyond the support environment. But I would highly suggest that the customer effort score itself should be kept sacred in the support environment. And asking that question of how quick and easy was it for me to resolve my issue, that question right there is a support question. But this question, ease of business, that's the zone you're getting into, and it's great. It's perfect. We should be thinking throughout the entire journey, how can we reduce effort? So this idea of the company is easy to do business with, that's something that you can ask at any point in the journey. And again, like customer satisfaction, you can benchmark you against you in terms of how easy it is to do business with you, because that is what matters to customer loyalty. So it's a critical thing to look for. Does that help an answer? And what I've been doing a lot more of, so anybody familiar with the Gallup Q12 from a employee survey perspective, one of the big questions on there is, do you have the tools and resources needed to do your jobs? And it is like universally the lowest answered question. People don't feel like they have the tools and resources they need to do their jobs. And what they're really getting at there is, it's hard for me to do my job. You make it tough for me. And when we peel back the layer of customer experience, and we're going to get into this a little bit more, it is the employee experience. It is the cornerstone of all of that. You can't do CX without EX, employee experience. So when we look at customer effort and the reduction of customer effort, we have to have the same intentionality about reducing effort for our employees. So I've been using this. The company makes it easy for me to work effectively, or some variation of that, to understand where in the employee experience are we not allowing our people to facilitate a quick and easy resolution for their customer. Because that leads to burnout, it leads to frustration on behalf of your employees, because they want to serve your customers well. I can almost guarantee you all have hired good people, and they want to serve customers well. What happens is they can't. They're a victim of something, and they get stuck, and for one reason or another, and we have to bring them alive again. But to do that, we have to reduce the effort in their job. So the idea of effort and effort reduction is very applicable across CX and EX. So I want to jump back here real quick. So if we were to look a little bit deeper at the customer support area itself, and if you were to go back and challenge your customer support team in this area of customer effort, if you were to find that the customer effort is very high, these are what you dig into. And hopefully, if you have what's called an omni-channel support experience, meaning you can deliver a consistent quality customer experience against any channel that you're offering, social media, live chat, email, phone, you have the ability to bring all that data into one place and to facilitate a quick and easy resolution out of one system for all of those different channels. These are the type of metrics that you want to look for. Time to resolve. How long does it take to close a support inquiry? Repeat calls. We love first call resolution in the support area, but it's not about first call resolution, because if we promise a customer, I'm going to look into this and I'm going to call you back, and you actually follow through on that, that builds trust. That builds trust, at least for me. When they set an expectation, I'm going to have to look into this for you, and they actually do it and close the loop with me, that's awesome. So I'm more worried about, did I actually have to call back in on the same issue? Because that's a huge detractor to customer loyalty, massive. Nobody likes to repeat themselves, and we've all had to do it to your cable company or something, where you got to get somebody else and try and get the answer you're looking for. And that's like the most horrendously frustrating thing in customer support and customer experience, is this idea of the customer having to call back in for the same issue or engage the company again on the same issue. Got to be looking for that and eliminating those touch points. Channel switching. So this is where somebody's queuing up a live chat and they're starting to get the sense that that's not going to be a good channel for them, and they pick up the phone or something of that nature, where they have had to switch channels. It's another big, so what you have done there, it means that you haven't guided the customer to success. We want to guide the customer to the best resolution path. Social media, how can we ram everything into live chat? That's not going to work for everything. What we need to consider is, what is the correct resolution path? And how can we guide the customer there? Because that's where we can facilitate the best customer experience. So it's not about trying to be all channels to all people. It's about guiding them to the best channel for the best experience. And then last but not least, self-service deflection. We want to know, we want to understand how many people are engaging with us on self-service for those things that can be automated, for those things that are transactional in nature. We can deflect them, and we need to have a good self-service portal that actually works. So it's great if people are going there and some percentage of them are resolving issues, but what the data can tell us is how many people are going there and actually getting help, and how many people are having to channel switch. Because, and I'm sure you had this experience where you've done the good thing, you've tried to be a good customer, and you've gone out and tried to self-service, and you run into a dead end because they didn't put the right information out there, because it wasn't aggressively curated, or it wasn't the right path. and therefore you just wasted whatever time you invested on that self-service channel, you have now wasted, and you've got to go to some other channel. So if we're going to guide people to self-service, we better have a very high percentage of time that it works for the customer. Any questions on these four if we look at the customer support area and this idea of customer effort? Any questions on these? Okay, good. So we talked through that. So I want to bring up one theme that I have found from doing this work for many years. So I came out of the contact center, but I now am the head of customer experience. And so what that means is I'm outside of support, and I'm looking to holistically create this better customer experience for all of our segments of customers. And what I have found in many of these cases is that knowledge is what makes it very hard for us or anyone to facilitate the best and quickest customer resolutions. It's a lack of knowledge to be able to flow through the organization well. And there's a great methodology, philosophy, KCS, is knowledge-centered service. Has anybody heard of knowledge-centered service? So this is taking a knowledge management approach into your organization to where you can share data throughout the organization in a way that actually makes sense, that you can curate it together, that it's relevant, it's up to date, and it's accessible. And there's this AQI, Article Quality Index, that helps you understand if your self-service environment is good. Is it being helpful? So if you wanted to take more of a focus on that self-service path to help your CX folks or your customer support folks, mention KCS, Knowledge-Centered Service, and then AQI. These are the metrics that we can use to really determine the experience that we're creating for our customers. Again, we're getting way beyond NPS to things that have a much higher correlation to customer loyalty in this idea of effort. All right, so I'm going to give you some, so we move past the foundational CX metrics, but before we jump into some more advanced ones, go ahead and get in groups of 3 or 4. Take a couple minutes. I would like for you to discuss the ways that you are currently measuring customer experience inside of your organization. So share with each other what you're doing. Go ahead and take 3 minutes, and we'll be right back. Go ahead and take about 30 more seconds to wrap that up, and we'll get on back. Oh, man. Well, let's go ahead and rope it back in. Great dialogues. Appreciate y'all going and doing that. So I'm curious. I would love to hear from these couple tables here. What's an example? What's something that you all talked about in terms of measurement of CX? What you got, Chris? Yeah. Okay. What's one of the main questions being asked on that survey?
Performance.
Okay.
And in this case, it was more of a job performance review. Like how did it, as far as Maxwell's role, as an advisor, as a consultant, how did they perform with their client?
Very good. Okay, excellent. Anybody up here? How about over there? Got one?
We just said we're like ground zero for customer experience.
Okay.
Metrics, like we don't do anything. And we said to be generous, we might say that we compile emails of customers that aren't happy with us.
Yeah,
But that's it.
that's a good starting point. Well, you're in the right place. Now you know the right foundational metrics. Awesome. How about right here? Any? What is that?
OSAT, overall satisfaction.
Okay.
1 to 5, and then I think they just take the top 2.
Okay. Awesome. Sounds good. How about this back area?
We do NPS.
Okay.
I think a couple of us do NPS.
All right. Yeah. Good. Okay. Let's jump over on the other side of the room here. How about these front couple tables? What customer experience metrics are being used?
I used to interact with sales and support call center.
Yeah.
On the support side, they used to be interested in number of people in the queue, average time to resolve whatever
good.
people were calling in for. And then on the sales side, everyone had like a list of contacts, and it was how many calls they were making a day out to that list.
The classic volume, the
Yes.
sales game.
Yeah.
Call this number of customers, you're going to get a percentage of them to call you back. Awesome. All right, sounds good. How about here?
Yeah, we had NPS, and then we also had kind of the social media review aspect.
Okay.
Google, Facebook, Yelp. We do some Twitter sentiment analysis.
Good.
Basic things like that. So.
Excellent. Okay, we're gonna talk some about that. So we have one example of somebody doing some customer sentiment analysis on social media. Very good. Okay. How about anybody right here? Anything different or interesting? Okay, good. Well, there's nothing wrong with NPS. I feel like it's something that we all have to do. Whether it's good or not, it's the starting point that we build from. But I do hope that this is challenging all of us to think, what can we do that would show even more the reality of our customer? To peel back the layer and understand them better to what are they actually thinking and feeling about us. So very good. Thank you for participating in that exercise there. All right. So let me introduce you. Yeah, right here.
Just a quick question.
Yeah,
Before we get into the advanced stuff.
certainly.
You mentioned that, satisfaction, whether that's measured by NPS or just your regular customer satisfaction surveys, doesn't correlate strongly with customer loyalty. And yet ease of doing business does.
Yeah.
Now that would imply, and I just want to clarify,
Yeah.
in your experience, is it possible that customers that really aren't that satisfied with the product or service, but for which it's very easy to do business with the company, are loyal? Like, I guess what I'm asking is like, is satisfaction also necessary, or can it just be easy to do business and you'll keep customers around who don't even really like you that much?
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm trying to figure out why is it that there's so much magic behind the customer effort score question. And the best that I can come up with, and Matt Dixon is the author of this book, and I've literally debated with him in front of a live audience the merits of the customer effort score. And one of the things that we're talking about and that was brought up is it seems like an organization that is mature enough from a process standpoint mature enough as an organization to think about reduction of effort, that naturally they have a better customer experience. It's almost like putting the cart before the horse in terms of if you're there from a process standpoint, then you're a very intentional company, you're a thoughtful company, you care about your customers. So, I mean, that's like the best that I can think of in terms of why this idea of effort reduction has such a strong correlation to loyalty. The idea of satisfaction, it's almost like a meaningless word now. Like, you can be satisfied with something, that doesn't mean I'm going to be loyal to it. If something else comes along, whereas my time, I'm going to guard that fiercely. If you valued my time, I will protect you as a vendor. But when it comes to me being satisfied, there's no translation there. But I think somebody else was going to answer that question over here. I saw another hand.
I was just going to say, kind of on the flip side, high change costs, like
Indeed.
switching from one to another, that's very high effort. Like,
Yeah.
you could be moderately content, be like, well, it sucks to switch, so I won't.
What pisses people off is when you waste their time. They're going to find a way to change, even if it's a high cost, if you've wasted their time. But if they're marginally satisfied, you haven't done enough to barb them to get over that cost of change hurdle. I think there's some absolute truth to that. Is that what you were saying at all? Okay. Does that? Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? Yeah, right here, Chris.
I experienced their day at Home Depot where they changed their self-checkout.
Oh, no.
It's amazing. It's one of those things where the effort is just enough to where my kids could do it. But it's
Wow.
fun, it's
Yeah.
easy, and it's convenient. It's that thing to where satisfaction is great, but having that ability to go through that checkout process myself, do it smoothly and easily and fast.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, okay, this is the best thing I've ever experienced.
When you're standing in checkout line at Lowe's, you're going to think about that. Yeah. I think there's some magic there. Absolutely. Good thought, Chris. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about my absolute favorite CX metric. And this was introduced by Jean Bliss probably about 4 years ago now. She wrote the book Chief Customer Officer 2.0, which if you're interested in customer experience work and want to dive deeper, there's 2 books that I would tell you to read. That's the first one, Chief Customer Officer 2.0. The other is The Effortless Experience by Matt Dixon. Those are the best things that have been written in this subject in the past 10 years. So she introduced this idea, and again, she's trying to get beyond NPS. She's recognizing, wow, we need to do something better and different than this hypothetical attempt at a predictive NPS score. And she actually took a big step back and said, we need to report the reality of the customer and stop trying to be as predictive because it's not working. It's not translating to any reality. So what she introduced was this idea of viewing your customer base as an engine and viewing your customers as assets, your most important asset that your organization has. And to view them in whole numbers by volume and by value. And to compare that quarter over quarter and to just see, are you growing your customer base, yes or no? This is the reality of your customer experience. Because when we do it well, we earn loyal customers. When we do it really well, they go earn us additional customers, and our acquisition engine is fueled. This is how we get new business, when customer experience is done well. So here's an example of the customer growth engine, and I've changed this up. So this isn't like real data, but this is an example of like how I've reported on this in my CX dashboard. And I'm looking at the different products in my world, and I'm reporting on, in this day right now, how many customers do we have on each of these products? And then looking holistically at the total number of customers that we had, as an example, in Q1 of this year, and then comparing that to Q2. Have we grown our customer base, yes or no? It is the most essential question you could ask. It's the most important data that you could report on. And if you can show that favorable number, that is absolutely something to celebrate. And that is immediately translating to the bottom line of the organization. So we're talking about proving the ROI of CX work. This is how we show it. We have grown our customer base. We have earned our customers back, and we have earned new ones by creating the best experience for our existing customers that we can. It's just very clear. It's so simple. And I think that's the power of the metric. It is so simple. You already have the data. And alternatively, if you have to show this number in red, and it's crazy how long people can hide behind an NPS score, when in fact you're losing customers. And it's crazy. I mean, I've been a victim of this. I've done this to my organization where I have not transparently shown the fact that we're losing customers, because that is a mic drop moment. The things that we are doing are not working to the point where we have lost customers from quarter to quarter rather than acquired more than the ones that we've lost. I mean, there's no more powerful of a conversation that you could create as a CX professional than that. So I would highly suggest, if you are having this conversation with your CX area, make sure that, I mean, I'm sure a lot of times they're intimidated when you come knock on their office because you're about to blow their minds with talk of R and doctor and models and predictive analysis. This is one that they can actually understand. And it's so meaningful and so powerful. And I mean, it would just be a no-brainer to really make this your premier CX metric. Are we growing our customer base, yes or no? So before I move off this, any questions or thoughts? Yes, Kaz.
Yeah, I was just going to say, do you actually need two metrics there?
Oh, sorry.
That says existing customers, how many did I retain?
Yeah.
And then how many customers did I add?
Yes. And even better if you can add.
All 1,300 customers and all those 1,500 are brand new.
Right.
That's kind of a bad.
Yeah, I mean, my next section is renewal rate on the specific. So you're exactly right. And what I'm adding to this and haven't yet is value. So it's one thing to have a certain number of customers, but what I need to represent is the actual total value of those customers. So when we bring in X number of customers more, here's how much I've added to the bottom line of the organization. Versus when we lose this number of customers, here's the value that those customers represent. This is what we lost out on as a business because customers left us because of the experience that we created. Yes, right there.
So in a retail environment, for this, you're not going to look at the number of transactions. You're actually looking at how many distinct people.
Yes.
Families,
Yeah.
so okay.
Absolutely. Are you getting more people in the door in a retail environment? Yes.
And repeat customers, that's
Counts.
not
Yeah.
2, not 3.
You could do that either way.
Okay.
Yeah. Whatever's going to be more compelling and a more realistic depiction of volume. You could do that either way. Good question. Any other thoughts on this? Okay. Customer growth engine. So now let's talk about a composite metric that I've used. I feel like many organizations, especially in the healthcare space, are more moving towards, so that was the ultra simple. This is definitely the more complicated, but it's also very powerful if it can be done well. It requires a significant amount of work to create this customer engagement score, which is one, it could also be called a customer health score, and it's a composite metric of the different key areas of the customer's journey, and you've identified something that signifies engagement. And you are somehow measuring that level of engagement across the different areas throughout the journey. So you had a comment about the number of sales calls that were made. I mean, I wouldn't suggest it, but that could be an example in the sales area of an engagement barometer that you have determined. So in other words, each function in your company would ask the question, what is the best depiction of customer engagement or customer loyalty that we have in this area that we can report on? And you would somehow make that consistent, like on a scale of 1 to 10, and then you would put that into a customer engagement score that would represent those different areas. Now, so I've done this on a specific product, and it gave me the power to be able to show so it's on an account by account basis. So it's specific customers have their own customer health score, which again, a lot of work to create, but the power of that, I mean, you can isolate all the customers that you know are on the fence, and you can look at everything associated with them. Where are those customers? How big are they? Are they enterprise level customers or small to medium business or what? What products are they using? What are some attributes of their journey that's making their engagement so low? So when you do it that specifically and that intimately, on an account-by-account basis and get some type of composite metric like this, you can do anything with that amount of data, that treasure trove of data that you would create. But you've got to have a really good CRM that's got a lot of that data already in there, and you've got to have department heads that are willing to produce that with you and for you to where you can create that type of customer engagement score. So you're not going to see a lot of this. If you Google this right now, there's just not really anything that's going to pop up. This is something that's emerging as a trend, this idea of this composite engagement metric. So I will try to answer any questions. Does anybody have any questions on this? Chris, have you seen this at all?
I think it's becoming a new thing for sure. A combination, like you're saying, a combination of all these different touch points.
Yeah.
Client lifetime value is another new one.
Indeed, yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a more, like you say, more comprehensive understanding of that satisfaction.
Yep.
Older type idea.
I mean, it's great to try and measure, looking at a specific customer, what did their journey look like on the different touch points? There's a lot of power to that, if you can do it. Any other thoughts or questions on customer engagement score? Okay, I think you'll start to see more of that, yeah.
Just looking at it, it seems difficult to measure. Like, you have to calculate a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you do.
know?
Yeah. No, I mean, when I embarked on my own experiment with this metric, it was a very limited number of customers, and I was going back and looking at all the data that I could in the CRM against those customers. There was other things where I had to engage with the customer directly and ask them questions to get additional data. So this would be small organization with a very, if you have a customer success team, so customer success is that salesy function, but it's really CX focused. This is where we're going to start to see that, because you're going to have these customer success managers that are getting really intimate with their customers, and they're going to be expected to start to generate some type of customer health score on all of their accounts to show how likely they are to renew. So that's where you're going to see this word of customer success that we're hearing more and more. That function will be responsible for this. Good question. All right, so let's talk customer sentiment. So this is probably the biggest overlap, the most relevant area when we talk about CX, when we talk about analytics. This is where they marry. and this is where we need your help. We need your expertise to do this really well. So it's going back to what we're trying to achieve together, which is to understand the thoughts and perceptions of the customer better than the NPS score or whatever score. And we have some new technologies and some new ways of doing that are very exciting. And one is absolutely this idea of text and voice analytics. I'll give you the example of Tether. So they don't bother asking the customer effort score on a survey. What Tether does is they have every single customer support call recorded, and they have the voice analytics on that to be able to determine the customer effort score automatically, just by listening to the recorded calls. Text analytics is, there's so many organizations that are doing this now. Whatever text you're getting in terms of your customers, this could be social media. There's so much organic data that exists out there that we have not been able to tap into before because it wasn't on a survey. Text analytics gives us the ability to actually know, by looking at a block of text, how this customer feels about us. Otherwise, before, it was just us making some educated guess on what we thought that it was. But text analytics has given us a lot of credibility in this area and has widened the net in terms of our ability to use customer data that exists out there in a meaningful way. So emoji-based is something you're seeing all the time now. Coming out of the bathroom, you're clicking a button. Was this bathroom clean? For ultra-transactional stuff, you're not having to fill out a survey or anything. You're just showing an emoji. There's a company called Morphe where they have a very sophisticated formula of faces that where you literally are changing the face based on how you feel. And they're taking your modification of the face and making that into true customer sentiment data that they claim has a strong correlation to loyalty. But it's something that resonates with a certain demographic of customers to be able to do it that way instead of answering a survey question. This is one that is absolutely emerging. I heard of Qualtrics back here. Anybody using a customer experience management platform like Qualtrics or CloudCherry, or what would be some more of them? 8x8. Okay, you probably are. And it will be interesting for you to discover that. Because there's a whole other set of data in that customer experience management tool that would be very helpful for you in this customer experience quest and conversation. But one thing that we're seeing these CXMs, customer experience management tools, do is have a video-based capability to where the customer, instead of filling out a survey, they're being asked on their mobile device to film a very quick video articulating their experience. And it's taking not only the content of what they say, which we can convert that to text and do text analytics on that, but it's actually looking at your expressions in your face and can, to a very high degree of accuracy, determine how you feel about the company. If you're frustrated, it's going to show on your face. You can't hide that very well. And if you're very excited and happy about it, you have an instant video user story. So I mean, this is like candy for CX professionals that really want to be able to get closer to their customers and understand them better. Have you been asked yet as a consumer to do that? You will. You'll start to see that pop up. Would you mind recording a quick 15-second video for us about your experience? You'll start to see that. And you're probably generationalize this, but one day I actually went out on the streets of Nashville and I was on this quest to determine that surveys were stupid and that we should all not do them anymore. And so I was literally doing like a man on the street video. It's coming up to people, hey, how likely are you to fill out a survey? And after they would do the joke of, are you giving me a survey about a survey? They would answer the question. And so most of our Gen X and baby boomer people would almost universally say that's a complete waste of time. I'm not going to fill out your survey unless I'm really, really mad at you. That would be the only time. But the younger individuals, I would be asking them the same question, and I mean, very high degree of likelihood that they would answer that survey. And it frustrated me to no end. I would even ask them as a follow-up of, why? Why? Like, I'm glad you do, because at least I have some data as a CX professional, but why do you do? And the answer would be, because my voice is important. Of course I fill out that survey. Of course I'm going to do that. So, like, this idea of video-based analytics and getting, it's probably going to be a lot of younger folks that are going to hop on that train right. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to film that. Whereas maybe a lot of us are like, wow, that's way too intrusive, or I'm not going to waste my time with that. So I don't know. Just an interesting thing that I was pondering as I did video-based. We've developed another method that's really focused on our employees. So coming out of the contact center, I was noticing that our contact center people were powerless to represent the voice of the customer in a powerful way, in a good way, when they were getting organic customer feedback. It was just being lost because because people weren't taking surveys. and either these great experiences and or these other meaningful / not great experiences were just being lost, even though we're getting meaningful customer feedback over the phone. So we introduced a USB web key button. Just a button, just a 350 button. And I gave it to all the contact center people first, and we just created an ultra simple little voice of customer form. Like, click the button, it's just a link that takes you to wherever I want you to go. And for us, it's a simplified voice of customer form, and it's just asking, what customer feedback did you receive? And how did the customer feel about that? And I've been able to use text analytics on that, which, granted, it's not directly from the customer, but in my case, I am trusting my employees to accurately capture the nature of that customer interaction. And I have found that they are very integrate in this regard. So it gives them the ability to represent their voice in the contact center and centralize that customer feedback, which is so meaningful. Otherwise, they know that they weren't representing that customer voice very well, and it's another thing that would lead to burnout, and we're missing out on a treasure trove of customer data. So just a little tchotchke that grossly increased our quality and quantity of customer feedback data coming from customer support. Then we rolled it out beyond customer support. Now this is something being used by sales, by professional services, and many other areas. When they get meaningful customer feedback, they can very quickly centralize that in the right place where we can do the analytics that we need to do it. Any thoughts or questions on this technique? Does not have to be a USB web key. Just think of a way to get people to value the voice of the customer and to take the time to centralize it into whatever your voice of customer engine is. Otherwise, the customer will be very sad and frustrated that their feedback went into the void and that nobody listened to them. And also your employees will be sad and frustrated about that too. Change your culture to honor customer feedback. Yes, right here.
So do you celebrate or you incentivize folks to do that? I mean, are you?
Yes.
It's one of the things, how many times you've been chewed out today, right? I don't know, been chewed out what, right? I don't necessarily promote that, but you want people to use it, you wouldn't necessarily promote the, like you said, highly accurate
Yeah. So by far the biggest thing that we've done that's made this program successful is close the loop. just actually recognize the feedback. And that intrinsically to us as human beings is all we need to demonstrate enough value that they're going to do it again the next time. Somebody did something with it, right there.
So how are you certain of your integrity of their feedback?
That's me going back and listening to the recorded call as an example and reviewing that against, it's going to be spot checks. But the nature of the feedback that's coming in and what we as a leadership team organically believe to be true, there's been almost no times where we've looked at something and just been like, what? And if that does happen, we have the ability to go back and look at it and research it. But this might not be for everyone. This is a culture where you really would have to trust your employees to represent customer feedback accurately. That might not be something that every organization can do yet. I would encourage you to move towards that and to be authentic in that regard because your people are going to want to be. But not everybody has the ability. So yeah, very good question on that. Yes?
Are you able to subset your metrics to the customers that left? Presumably if they're still here, they're not getting mad.
Yeah. So I'm going on that journey right now. So I've recently started implementing a new customer experience management platform called CloudCherry, which does, so we use Salesforce as our CRM as a larger organization. This is taking the customer feedback data, marrying it with that Salesforce data. So as an example, when the customer does leave us, I will be able to see their NPS score, their different survey responses associated with that demographic of customers that have left. Today I don't have the ability to do that. I hope that if you ask me that question in 3 or 4 months, I will absolutely have the ability to do that. So that's what a good customer experience management platform does for you. Or a good data scientist, which is all of you. Good question. Does that answer the question? Okay. Cool. Let's see what we got. Oh, man. All right. So I want to touch on this idea of structured, unstructured feedback. So this is an example of us centralizing unstructured feedback in a meaningful way. Surveys are structured. You created the channel for the customer, and you've asked them in your little way to give you feedback. That's not the way our customers speak to us anymore. And if you think about, the biggest question we need to be asking is, how can we listen to our customers? How can we listen? How are they talking about us? When we look at the impact of like reviews on Amazon to our likelihood to purchase a product. For me, anybody use slickdeals.com? Holy man, it's the collection of all the best deals on the internet. And there's vicious people out there in the community either defending products that they love and or destroying brands on an everyday basis. And these brands don't even know what's happening. So these third-party communities are out here and they're real. And our modern customers, they aren't looking to us to tell us about ourselves. They're looking to other customers. So our brand promise used to be what our marketing team made up and put out into the world. Now our brand promise is what one customer says to another. That's the reality. So how can we best listen to our customers and have a realistic reflection of what's going on with them? So it's thinking about on all these different touch points. So this is an example of like a journey map. And think about what is the right ways for us to listen to the customer throughout their journey. And then what are the key loyalty metrics that we can use? Something needs to be consistent so that you can benchmark you to you across the journey. But there's going to be other things too. I was talking over here. Your mother's a UX designer, correct? Yeah, so this idea of UX coming into the CX stage, and we have a new metric called System Usability Score. This is a great overlap where now we can look at a piece of software and know better the thoughts and feelings that the customer has towards this software because of a system usability score. That's not going to be applicable in these other areas of the journey. So we need to have a baseline of some consistent metric, whether that's customer effort score or ease of business rather. And then also, you got to have something that's going to be a great representative of customer loyalty in that area. And you build out these journey maps. And you represent the customer journey in a compelling way. And I've got some journey maps where I actually show, like, here's the valley of despair. It's right here in the implementation stage where our customers disengage and we set expectations in the sales cycle that we could not deliver on. Here's the impact of that. It's a very compelling thing to be able to represent. And it's a great way, one of the themes in this conference is how do we tell the story with our data? Journey maps are incredible in that regard. For you to be able to depict the customer journey, a data-driven journey, in a way that people can understand and quickly digest. Customer journey maps are incredible for that. So use that as a vehicle and think about how can we best listen to our customers, both structured and unstructured data. Great. So I've got a couple minutes here. I'm going to cover one more thing, and that is what we talked about before. This idea of employee experience is the foundation of the customer experience. So we cannot just measure the thoughts and perceptions of the customer. We also need to measure the thoughts and perceptions of the employees. And a pulse survey is how we've been doing that, and it's phenomenal. We use a tool called Office Vibe. It does not matter what tool you use. But this is, again, a composite metric where we're taking these elements of the customer experience, we're measuring them, and then we're rolling them up into an employee engagement metric. So what I can do then is I can say, here's our level of employee engagement and correlate that to our customer experience. Because the level of engagement of our people, the level of satisfaction of our employees will absolutely impact the customer experience. It's a mirror. We can and will only deliver the quality of the experience that we are given by our own company leadership. We cannot make it up for the customer. We can only fake that for so long. So our level of authenticity in the CX area is a direct representation of the EM. There's the employee engagement metric through a tiny pulse or through Office Vibe. There's also this idea of total motivation, where you're looking at the intrinsic and extrinsic motivators that are present in your workplace. And there's a wonderful book called Prime to Perform by Lindsay Doshi and Neil McGregor. And this is just incredible when it comes to measuring the employee experience and the power that that brings. So I just want to summarize by, as a data person, help your CX professional to think this way. How are we measuring the employee experience? What do we have that we can trust there? How can we correlate that to the customer experience? And then how can we correlate that to the actual results of the business? That's what you can bring to us to give true ROI to the work of customer experience, legitimacy to the work, and also to really show the power of employee experience and customer experience when it comes to growing your businesses. So I hope that was helpful. That's everything for me. Please use me as a resource. If I can answer any questions for you, I would love to. I'm right down in Cool Springs. So let's hang out and serve some customers well. Thank you all very much.